Okay, so now before doing any changes, I really like to make the design a bit more complex. And I feel like if we go and cut this corner off, it would be a good design. So in order to do that, I'm not actually going to create a new geometry. We're going to borrow from this one that is exactly cutting this part off right away. And if we go to edit mode, you see if I change anything about this, the whole mesh gets changed. Now I'm going to shift D to select this, and you see it's a bit slow because it's now a part of a Boolean piece. So let me just rotate this to a certain degree that is something like this, for example, and then try to drag it down. Not that much. And I do not want to hurt this paneling that we did. Let's drag it. And now I'm taking this face and I want to extend it a bit. So let's go to normal so that we only extend in the normals of the exact shape. Okay, like so. And now go back. And looks like I did a wrong selection. I actually selected the one that was used for cutting off these panels. So it doesn't matter. I can go and take this Alt and G and now P by selection. And let's go take a look at this to see which one is deriving this Boolean piece. So this is not. And let's go see the plane. No, the cube. Yeah, the name of the cube is cube 004. So we need to find it. Let's select this one. This is now cube 14. Now this is cube 004. And now I'm selecting these two. Let me select this one and this one, Control J. Okay, now let's go back. And you see this part has been cut off because now this Boolean is the same part of this Boolean and they're doing exactly the same thing. But now one thing is that I do not want to cut off right to the end. I'm taking this and now in the global mode, just move it in Y to bring some of that piece back. Okay, like so. Maybe something like this. And now I'm taking this piece and drag it in here. Okay, and now let's take a look at it. And now you see it adds more to this one. And now one more thing is that this piece in here needs to get deleted or gone into the surface actually. And this one as well. So let's apply the mirror. I'm gonna take this piece only and drag it in the surface. And because this is a Boolean piece, it's going to cut off really well into the object. Okay, it's already a Boolean piece. Now apply the mirror on that one as well. And then, okay, we did it. And added one extra cut to the surface to make it more complex. And now I believe it's time to go on and move to the other side and finish this one. And here's the reference that we have. And the first thing that is so obvious is that it has a speaker or something, and then multiple speakers repeated. And then we have some bolts in place, which we could do so easily. And then this is this part actually that we're gonna do using the texturing inside Substance. Because this is an emissive part, it's going to shine light. So first we carve the place inside Blender, detail it out inside ZBrush, and then do the final texturing phase inside Painter. So for now, the first thing is this overall paneling that we have here. You see the panel goes around and we need to do that. And now let's see what we have here. I'm going to disable all of them and this is what we get basically. Now this is the default cube that we had. First we have a Boolean that rounds everything. Then we have this one that carves the place for the handle. Now we have a bevel that rounds out these corners. And then we have another Boolean that cuts this one on this angle. And then this one should be, yeah, this one is it. So this is where we get. Now in order to recalculate the normals, let's bring away the normal modifier and set keep sharp so that we're good to go. Okay, now the first thing, I'm going to carve this overall panel. You see now, this is the piece, and then there's a door or a panel or something that maybe people open it up, change the battery, or do something. I don't know. But this is what we are going to do now. And now I'm making sure that this one isn't going to change at all until the end, because I'm going to Shift D duplicate to create a copy from it, then apply the modifiers so that I'm able to catch this face in here. So now let's see for the face weighted normals, I do not need it. Now let's deactivate it. I want this one as well. The bevel might be or might not. So I do not want the bevel because I only want a single face. Now this one cuts, and then this one as well. We do not need that. Okay, now we got all of these, and now I'm going to make this one destructive. And that is, we go in and we could go and try to change anything. And you see the bad shading in here. We could easily go try to clear any normals, and now you see every shading issue that we have is gone. And this is why I really tell you to not to worry that much about, let me go back, shading issues like these, because later on that we go to get the real geometry, all of the shading issues are going to be fixed. So we do not really need to care about this one whatsoever. So now I'm taking this face, and now P by selection, and I'm taking this one, remove it. Okay, now we got this face, and it's ready to be a cutter to cut this part in. So now let me bring that in. It doesn't matter actually, because one way or the other, we're gonna go and bring in the solidify modifier to add some thickness to it. Okay, this is it. And now let's take a look at it. And there are some changes that we could do. I'm gonna go in and drag this one in, drag this one in as well. This is the frame that we're deciding on. And let's do something. I'm going to scale that in X. Okay, like so. And then I'm taking this one and dragging out so that there's a bit of distancing in between these. Okay, now we got this, and I'm gonna go apply the rotation and the scale and making sure that the normals are correct, because sometimes the solidify modifier corrupts the geometry and the normals. Okay, now I'm taking this one and this piece, control minus, to add the bevel, excuse me, the boolean. I always mistake them, so you know. Now, excuse me, let me bring this one back. Now we have this one in here right in place. And now you see there's nothing actually there, but we need to go in here, apply the geometry. And now, while this one has the geometry in itself, and I applied the solidify modifier to get the real geometry, I'm gonna go and apply another solidify modifier. And you know the rules. We're gonna set that to complex for now, set the offset to 0, because we do not want the offset, and then we're gonna use a very lower number on this. Okay, and now let's take a look at it, and you see a bit of carving in here. And in order to catch the normals better, I'm gonna go and add a bevel modifier after. And now you see it catches the normals perfectly, and we can go and try to add as many segments as we want. And now this is the door or the panel or the case or whatever you can think of for this one. And you see it follows the same curvature, the same geometry, making it really realistic based on the designs that I have seen yet. All of them that I have seen, a radio or a mobile or something, have this profile to them. They have the main shape, and then they have something cut off based on that main shape. So now, in order to be consistent, we're making sure that we do not change the real shape in here. Okay, now this is for the starters, and it's a good one. And now we need to go and apply the rest of the details. I might start with this speaker in here, and then maybe some of them as well. And we have a couple of options. One of them is to make this one real geometry, something like this one that we will later on low poly and texture. And the other way around is going and making the boolean piece like this one that later on is going to be deleted. The first way is adding more shape and silhouette and definition to the shape, but the latter one is going to be more optimized. So we're going to go for the second one because this is a game piece and it doesn't hurt if we add a bit of optimization. So now let's go add a cylinder, hold down shift to make it a perfect cylinder, and I'm going to make it something like this. And now this one and this one have the pivot in the center. I'm taking this and this one as the active object, and I'm hitting Alt and A, disable the rotation. Okay, now this one is perfectly centered in here and I'm happy with it. So now I'm making that smooth based on 30 degrees and take this one and cut it into object. So for now, we do not care if that isn't working all right. We need to go and try to bevel this to add some highlights to that. Okay, let's take a look. And it's adding a good one, but I'm needing to add a bit of depth into that. I do not want it to be a planar. So let's add an inset, okay, like so. Let's just add an inset, apply, and then M collapse. This is going to make the geometry for us, but looks like there's something wrong in here. Let's go back and see what is going on. I'm taking the piece in here. Let's hit F3 to bring the real geometry back. And then what I'm going to do is inset, very small inset, and then M collapse. And let's see what this one does. And let's hit F3 on this. Okay, it's working perfectly. And now I'm selecting the cylinder and we have a vertex in here. So this is the later vertex. I can go and try to add some depth into this, but since this one is going too far, we're getting these issues. So let's see what we could do about it. Let's take this one overall. Okay, and then I'm trying to drag this one in. Or let's hit Control Z. I do not want it to be so much. Okay, this is good. And let's bring the geometry back. I'm gonna select this face. Let's select the cylindrical piece and Control and B to add a bevel, but it's not adding a bevel to the vertex. So you need to add V to bring in this one so that the vertex can also get beveled as well. So let's drag that back and try to look at it. Bring everything back. And now we need to go face orientation. Everything is fine. We do not see any problem in there. So it looks like we could go and try to, no, let's leave it be. Okay, this is the piece and looks like we could go and make this one a bit smaller because based on the reference, this is not a very, very big piece like this one. So we could go back and try to take this. And this one is live. And every change that we do on this is going to be applied no matter what on this surface. So the scale is going to be along Z and X. So I'm going to hit scale and then shift and Y. So that the scale is going to be only along Z and X. And now I'm going to drag this one down and it's perfectly centered. Okay, you see there's actually not a problem in here. But we could go and try to resize it just a bit more. So again, I'm hitting scale, shift and Y to exclude the Y from the calculations. And this is okay. And let's take a look at it. Very good. And now later on, I will do something for these pieces. For now, let's go and try to carve these pieces out. And you see, these have some paneling as well. We might do something like this one on them as well to make them just like a speaker or something. But first, we need to carve the place for them. But before that, let's reuse some of the geometry. I'm going to take this one. We have this. Okay, Control D to duplicate. And I'm dragging them out. And I'm going to mirror them to this side. So one way to rescale them would be to rotate around 180 degrees and to bring them in here. And another way would be to rescale these in a negative direction based on the vector that we want to. For example, now we want to make these face in the Y. So we go scale and now hit Y so that it scales only on Y, and then hit -1. And now you see it mirrors them to this side. But there's one problem with this approach, and that is it destroys the normals. If I go apply the rotation and the scale, you see now the normals need to be recalculated. So we go in, Shift and N to make the normals all right. And this piece needs to get aligned with the rest of them, because on this piece that we had, this one goes too far and it's not on the same plane as the other three, but these are all on the same plane. So now I'm taking this, and this one needs to be placed exactly in here to face. So that's about it. And now we need to bring this one close to object so that we can apply the Boolean. So let's bring them here. But one thing is that I'm not happy with the placement of these. I want them to be exactly on this panel line. So we're gonna go into edit mode and select all of them and drag them in, and drag these ones up as well. Now it's a better thing, I believe. Now let's drag them out just like so, and take this one, Control minus, and just like always, the weighted normal is gonna be on the list. And now this is okay. And in order to fill that, we need to bring in some bolts to do that. So we're gonna do the same thing for the bolts as well. So we selected them, Shift D, and then again I'm going to rescale them on Y to get them to face to the other direction. So scale in Y and -1, they got rotated. So now let's go in, and this one needs to get aligned with the rest of them. I believe, yeah, this one was further. So roughly about the same. And now we need to go face orientation. If we apply the scale, you see the normals are bad. Okay, now let me see where they are. Okay, I found them. And let's apply, no, the rotation is already applied. Okay, now let's drag them in, and we need to place them in just like these as well. Just we need to drag them like so in their places, and this one as well needs to be placed exactly in here. Okay, an extra detail that we added on this, and I'm happy with it. Of course, let's go and try to bring them in just a bit for the normal bake. We do not want this to be a geometry piece. And one more thing is that I want this one to show a little bit of more depth, because as you know, we went to this piece and pushed it so far, but that is not enough to capture the depth that I wanted. So a way to trick it for the time being is to mark sharp some of these edges. So if I hide everything, you see now, although we have some depth in here, but that is not enough to capture that. And I do not want to push this one further into the object, because this one is a relatively thinner one. And if we push the detail too much, we're going to have some intersections with this piece. I do not want to do that. So one way to fix that would be taking this Boolean piece and going into edit mode and taking this edge in here and push that in to capture some more depth. But you see, since this one is a thin object relatively, it's not supporting the idea. So I'm bringing this one back. Let's Control Z a couple of times. Okay, now we would like to go and, while having all of these selected, right click and mark sharp. Okay, now you see this becomes a little bit more defined and having the shape. And this mark sharp is a temporary solution for rendering inside Blender. This is not gonna actually work when we bring that into ZBrush. This is only for Blender side, and I decided to mark sharp this one as well. So if we go and take this edge, for example, and right click and mark sharp, and since I use mark sharp a lot, I'm going to right click and add it to quick favorite menus, so that every time I hit Q, I hit and I get this quick favorites, and the ones that I use not that regularly to be a shortcut piece, I bring them in there. So now you see this one becomes a little bit sharp. So now let's go back and fix that. Okay, gone. Now it's time to go and add all of the details, which are, let me take a look, and they are these pieces that I'm going to add. And they're gonna be so easy. We're gonna bring in a cube, okay, like so. And this one is going to be a good one. Now let me drag this one out, and then this one in here, this face is going to be the pivot, so that every time I move, I'm moving based on that. And the reason that I placed it there is because that is exactly in the center of this one. And if I take this and the object that we want to make a boolean out of, which is this one, and if I hit Alt and A, you see it's going to align them together, but I do not want to align the rotation. I just want to align the center pivot to the center pivot, so that this is exactly now in the center of the object. So now let's go apply the rotation and the scale, and I'm going to bring that up. Let me see what we have here. We have one bigger one in here and two smaller ones downside. Okay, now let's bring that in. And now I'm going to control minus, or we should select this one as well, control minus, and bring this one under the weighted normals, and let me bring it up. Okay, like so. Now I'm going to go and take this edge, and in select, go to select edge, select loop, and then select edge rings. This is going to select the ring that is around it. You see, edge loop is a set of loops that are connected to each other. For example, this one, this one, this one is an edge loop. This one is an edge loop. But the edge ring are the edges that are just like a ring. If that is around your finger, you know what a ring is. Okay, now Control B to add a small bevel. Now using mouse wheel to add some more segments. Okay, now we're seeing some definement in here. And now in order to make that a little bit better, I'm gonna go in, take this face, and bevel this one as well. Control B. And let's see what we have here. Of course, I do not want to have all of those segments. If I hit Control B again, you see now we have a lot of segments. I just want one of them. Now let's drag this one in. And by the way, we're not seeing a lot of definition in there. So let's go again. I'm taking this one. Let me go in, select this, and try to inset to a very small number. Because we have a lot of vertices that are so close to each other that if you try to rescale them too much, these would be starting to intersecting to each other using the inset. Okay, now let me drag this one in. Okay, now if we take a look at here, you see now we have more shape and definition. And let's add one more level, and that is the reverse beveling that we always add into the pieces. I'm dragging this one in. Okay, just like so, and then Shift and N to recalculate the normals. Let me drag the reference out, and then take this one, Control B to add the bevel, like so. Not that much, because you see it starts to intersect with the other pieces. So now I'm dragging this one in until about here that we start to get that edge definition. You see now it's here, it's a small, but it's a good one. But now instead of recreating the same thing over and over again, it looks like we have a problem in here. Let's go see what the problem is, what is causing that problem. So I'm checking these ones on and off. Let's go in, and looks like by accident I just dragged these ones up. I don't know what is causing that, but this is why we're getting those problems. So now looks like we need to drag this one down to get the problem fixed. So you see now this should be exactly on the ground, exactly on the ground level. And you see this one has gone up. So because we have the Boolean, it's going to cut up there, but that is not a problem. So now let me bring the pivot exactly in here, and then along Z, we want to zero that out. So I simply go to Z and bring that on the ground level, and the problem fixed. Okay, now you see we get the same thing, and I'm happy that this one happened, that we know how to troubleshoot some of the errors that happen in the production. You see, not a lot of the times we have no issue at all. And one of the good knowledges is that where to fix issues when they arise. Okay, now for now, let me bring the 3D cursor to the center, and now we're ready to move on and continue to make this piece. And now that I'm taking a look, this piece is too far in. And because later on, this one is going to be baked into normal map and not having the real detail, the real actual details, I'm going to scale it alongside Y. And I'm telling you just why in a minute. So let's drag that one out. You see, if this one is having too much details, we need to go and make the cage stronger. So for now, we need to make this one a bit closer, because later on, by the way, this is going to be baked into the normal map. And doesn't matter how far it goes. By the way, it's going to be baked on a normal map. But one thing that we could do indeed is taking this face and try to rescale it to make that reversed bevel a bit stronger. So let's rescale and take all of them using Alt and G. And just drag it out until we're happy with the definition, okay? Now we have some rounder edges in there. So now let's do the continuation, and we're gonna make these pieces as well. But in order to do that, I'm going to reuse the geometry instead of recreating that. So I'm taking this piece, let me Shift D to duplicate, and then right click to paste that just in. And now I'm dragging this one in, and make sure that you do not move that Boolean piece, because if you move it, you're gonna get the error on the design. So now I'm taking this one, but this needs a bit of refinement, because you see, but this shape is round a bit. So we need to make that roundness in here. So let's go in the edit mode, and if I try to Control R, you see, because we have a lot of n-gons, it's not going to make a loop cut through. So we need to go bring the K, then use the knife tool. So you hit K and then drag it thing out, and looks like we need to make that in X. Okay, we need to make that a strong piece in X. Hit X so that it moves only on X, and then make it C so that it passes through. Click and then apply. So now we have a loop that goes all around the piece. Okay, as you can see that, let me go back, and then we need to rescale this in X to make the piece a bit rounder. So scale only in X and try to move that just like so. And then now, in order to make it rounder, I'm going to add a bevel. So it looks like it's not giving me the result that I want, and that is because of this face that we have. If you see this one, if I go and bring or hit F3, you see now this face is wrong and it's causing the issues. Okay, for now, for the time being, I'm going to select this face, drag it out a bit, shift click and N, and then we need to take this face and this one, connect them. Okay, like so. And now we have a loop that goes all across. Now let's do something, Control B. You see now it's working perfectly until here. And now we have a rounder design that has some variations as well. So now, in order to make that perfect, I'm going to select this one, Shift and N to recalculate it so that this becomes the reversed Boolean. Okay, now I'm going to select this one and this one, Control minus as always, and let's see what we have done. Okay, we need to drag this one up, the weighted normal modifier, and looks like we need to take this and bring it in calculations, just like so. And now it's perfect. But this one needs to be a bit smaller. So let me take that, and when we're making that smaller in all of the sides, we need to drag that one out like so. Okay, now I'm happy with this. And now let's add one more variation. And for that, I'm going to use an array modifier. And the array, it's going to be based on -z. So I'm going in here, -1. It's going to be an array. So let's just increase the distance like so. Okay, now we're adding those details. And now let's go for this detail. And that is going to be very easy because on Blender side, we're going to just make something like this round piece. Just rotate that 90 degrees and drag it out. And in ZBrush side as well, it's going to be easy because we're only going to smooth that, just like what we did on the demo section. But on Substance Painter side, we're going to make the details there. Okay, now I'm gonna go in, drag a cylinder. No, let's not go for a cylinder. Let's go for a UV sphere. And hold down Shift so that it's a perfect thing in there. And now we need to make the dimensions all right. So in here, if you hit N, you see this menu in the transform in the item tab. Dimensions are perfect. And we need to make this one a perfect cylinder. Okay, now the dimensions in X and Y are perfectly fine. We need to copy the same thing in the Z to make that perfect. So now let's shade smooth and let's just compare that to the dimensions that we have here. Okay, looks like this one is a good one. And right now, based on that design, I really like this panel cut. And it would be a good idea if I copy that panel cut in here. So for now, let's leave it be. Now I'm gonna go in the edit mode and take this one and this edge loop, Control B to add a bubble, because I'm going to just put a distance like so. We're going to have a cylinder, a perfect cylinder that has round top and bottom. Okay, now let's go back and just a small bit. And now we need to push this one in to make sure that it's somehow in the center. Okay, now, you know the Boolean workflow. I'm taking the Boolean piece and then the host piece, Control minus, and drag the weighted normal modifier down. Okay, now for now, let's take a look. And already it has a good amount of detail. Okay, now I'm happy with this design. And actually, I might just keep this one as a geometry piece because it's going too far. And it will be a good idea to add some geometrical details later on in this piece. Okay, now to make that better, I'm going to drag it down until here. Okay, now let's take a look at it. These ones are going to be baked, but this one, I decided that I want that to be a geometrical piece. So now let's bring the panel thing that we talked about before. So I really like this design to copy that over this place. Okay, now let me Shift D, just like so. And I'm going to go in the edit mode and delete this one out. So now I have this. Let's rotate that 180 degrees and just drag it in here. Okay, like so. And until here is good because I do not want to intersect with this piece in here. So while having this one and this one, Control minus, okay, the panel cut is there, but this would be repetitive. I don't know. I'm gonna take a look at from here. Okay, I'm just taking a look. And this paneling line that you see in here, we created that by this Boolean and it's causing all of these happy accidents. I didn't expect to get that, but you see, because we have two panelings in here, and that is one this Boolean and one the main piece, we're getting so much of cool designs. And the same thing goes for this one as well. One thing is this Boolean piece and one thing is the main back piece. Okay, now I'm stuck in between the idea of keeping this one the way that it is, or let me just apply the rotation and the scale, and then bringing in a solidify modifier like so. And let's set the offset to be 0 and a very, very low amount to make this actual cut, something like this, and not a geometrical piece. So I'm happier with this one. And let's go see what we could do else with it. If I go and take this face and try to extrude that in X, let's see what happens. If we get any extra design. No, I'm not liking that one. So Control Z. Okay, until so. And let's take these, drag them up. And I'm happy with this, because it's just like a panel or something that you open, place your batteries in, and these kinds of storytelling elements that you can think of. Okay, now I'm taking this again because I'm going to make another Boolean piece this time on here. So you already see the curvature. So I'm taking everything, Shift and D. Then I'm going to rotate that by 90 degrees. Like so. And then I'm gonna drag it up just like so to make a paneling on this side as well. And because this is already a Boolean piece, it's taking whatever we add here, and I'm liking this. And to add some treasury details, I'm going to put some bolts in here. But since this lesson is taking already too long, I'm gonna cut it off in here and continue to make the piece in the next lesson, where we actually, I believe, are going to finalize this radio piece and move on to the headphone piece. Okay, see you there.